We are the farm animals. We're the people on a farm. We're the people in a cage. Just as other animals butcher other animals, we also butcher animals. And so what makes us different from animals is very, very small. The difference between us butchering the animal is that we get the animal in a nice bit of pollution, plastic, polystyrene, and it's presented to us in a particular way, which takes us away from the knowledge of how the animal lived, died and suffered. Most animals, they suffer. Most animals, they're kept in captivity. Most animals go through a lot of pain. And knowing that the animal had a lot of pain and stopping eating that animal stops you from eating stress and pain, because suffering is a negative energy, and suffering can manifest itself or contain itself in physical property, like meat. So if you go and eat meat that has suffered, it's not suffering that you're eating, it's a negative energy that we understand, we call suffering, because that's what we've coined it as. You are eating negative energy, and that has an effect on you at an energetic level. We treat animals like this because we believe that we are more conscious than animals. We are not more conscious than animals per se. We are more intelligent than animals. Consciousness and intelligence, they're two words that often get mixed up. Because someone's more intelligent, they are therefore more conscious. If you look at society, there are many people which are very intelligent. People that work for the armed services, people that develop bombs, people that develop the society that we live in, politicians, highly intelligent people, and they do very bad things. They create weapons, they create wars, they create famine, they create all types of stuff. So we can't justify intelligence for consciousness. There are lots of people that aren't intelligent that have lots of consciousness, that are very loving people. And animals are the same thing. You can't just judge an animal to be lower consciousness than you because you happen to have more intelligence than it. Because if that's how you think, then that means that any entity, any interdimensional entity, any entity off-world that has a higher intelligence than us, therefore is more consciousness. And if we treat animals badly because we're more intelligent, there's no reason why higher intelligence can't treat us badly, because they're more intelligent. What we want done to others, we must have done to ourselves. What we want done to ourselves, we must do to other people. And that includes animals as well, because animals are sentient beings. Animals comes from the word anime, which means soul. Okay, so animals in some religions are classed as sentient beings, which is why they are vegetarian. Now, I don't have a problem with killing animals. I'm not a pure vegetarian, but I do have a problem about how we treat animals. Because if we treat them badly, we can therefore get treated badly. If we go and treat animals badly and we create suffering in the meat and we eat the meat, what's you doing to the society? The entire society eats meat. It's got more meat eaters than ever before. The animals are all ill. The animals are hurt, and we're eating that pain. And therefore we are polluting and causing disease to ourselves. The Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Judaism and Islam, they were all created in temples. The first religion, if you like, is Judaism, which is where Islam and Christianity come from. And Judaism goes back a long, long way. It goes back to the Sumerians and the Babylonians. And there's a lot of influence from those cultures into Judaism. Now, most of those cultures were animal sacrificing cultures. They had temples. We think as temples as something like an Egyptian pyramid, or we think of it like a church where people walk around in these nice vestments and everyone's in pews and it's got some incense. That's not what the original temples were. The original temples were barbecue meat fests. They had more in common with McDonald's and Burger King than they do with anything of today in religion and society. They had lots of barbecues, they had lots of flies. The priests didn't have white clothes, they had clothes which were stained with blood. They had more in common with a butcher's clothes than they did with any frock that a priest wears today. The religion is presented to us in a very nice way, but we don't look at the origins of the religion. We don't look at the sources of the religion, and those sources are the understand. They're the thing which holds up what is presented to us. In the same way, when you get a beautiful packaged piece of meat, it's presented to you in a particular way, and you think it's delicious and you want to eat it. And because it's lying, because it's presenting a lie, and you believe in that lie, and there's an ignorance which is justified by you being very busy and not wanting to know, about the past of the animal, where it's come from, it's therefore suddenly justified to eat the animal. But if the animal, the life of the animal in the past, which has negative energy, which you consume, and causes you to be ill in various different ways on various different levels. What then happens if you've got a religion which is based on animal sacrifice and the way that it treats animals? Then suddenly are the sort of energetical links which happen and are conveyed to us through our religions at the moment. Animals were bred for sacrifice. As the agriculture came along, so did religion. So the two are symbiotic. Animals were bred to be sacrificed. Animals were domesticated to live on the farms. Certain types of animals were wanted more than others. Those were the fatter animals, those were the more docile animals. An animal which was aggressive would have been killed straight away. An animal which didn't produce large amounts of meat wouldn't be duplicated through fecundity, through reproduction. Therefore, the domestic animal was controlled. And that's been going on for a very long period of time, in the same way that humans have been domesticated. Any human which speaks out, any human which says things contrary to the modern narrative, a narrative which has been largely developed by religions in the past, and those religions have split into other fractions. So, for instance, in the past you had a shaman which knew about many different things, that went into a priest, a king, a military warrior, etc., etc., because life became more complex, so one person couldn't hold all that information, so it was split. And then that split never linked, it was sort of compartmentalized so that there was no unity. Just as the animals bred for a sacrifice, therefore the humans are bred for a sacrifice. That sacrifice is a spiritual sacrifice where you give up your life, you give up your freedoms in order for the modern narrative, which has been created by society, and therefore you've got to look where that society has come from. Just because the packaging looks good, just because the society looks good, doesn't mean that behind the society there's a lot of emotional instability which the society doesn't deal with. As the technology exponentially increases, it doesn't cater for the subjective emotional needs of the human. Farm animals suit our purpose. It's death. We eat animals. Animals have to die. In the same way, spirits, angels, demons, whatever you want to call it, they're energetical beings. They need to have a source of nourishment as well. Angels get their source of nourishment of harmony, love, kindness, empathy. But the lower energies get their source of nourishment from negative energies. Those negative energies are hate, angst, fear. And therefore, if the society is to be a farm, it needs to farm those negative energies. And in order to farm those negative energies, you need to create them. And the way you create them is through war and famine and prisons, society, drugs, all of those things that we see. We don't see a society which has empathy. We see a society which has fear. And the reason for that is because the people at the top of the society get there from power and ambition. Now, power and ambition is very negative because it's about me. It's about power is negative because it's you trying to control. A positive form of living is a community living. It's one of empathy. Powerful people don't have empathy. Powerful people want to dominate because they're scared. And so what we see is a society built, creating domesticated people on fear, and those people control those other people. The farming industry is like a death cult. The way it treats animals, it's a sacrificial thing. Humans also belong to this death cult, this new death cult which is coming along. Technology is not alive. Technology is dead. It's nihilistic. If you've got something which is nihilistic, which is controlling you, you create a nihilistic cult. And that nihilistic cult doesn't have empathy. Empathy is something which is to do with humans. It's to do with love. It's to do with understanding someone else's position. Technology doesn't do that. Technology isn't bad in itself, but if technology controls us, then it's bad. And what the society wants is for us to atomize ourselves through various different ways, to run us down, to bring us down, to give up our humanity. Because if you can give up humanity, you give up empathy. And if you give up empathy, you're much more likely and closer to turn on to a technological society instead of the human society, which is to do with nature. And just look at how we treat nature. We treat nature very badly, but we love technology. We treat technology with more respect than we treat nature, even though technology comes from nature, because all of the elements in technology have to come from minerals. And what we do is we destroy the nature in order to get that technology out. We don't respect the mother and the source of the technology, which is a crazy thing to do. It's like respecting your food but not respecting the animal from where it came from.